I want to get to this. So there's talk now that Kliff Kingsbury, Kliff Kingsbury could be coaching for his job. Wow. Here's Kliff when asked about it.
It's what have you done for me lately league. There's a lot of noise out there. Do you feel like you're coaching for your job at all right now?
I think that comes with the profession. I think when you have a start like we have had offensively, that talk is going to be out there. And quite frankly, it should be. We should play better, and we all know that. So that's week in, week out, we feel like we're all kind of coaching for our job in this profession, and we got to get better on offense.
Yeah, got to get better. Got to get better on offense, which is interesting because that's his jam. I don't think he's coaching for his job, but he's the only guy that you can pay to walk away, and it not really. Keim could be the guy as well because this is all. But you're not firing the GM who found the coach and found the quarterback, and the quarterback has made you better. The next 4 or 5 games are paramount for them because they've been doing it without Nuke Hopkins, and last year their season fell apart when Nuke Hopkins got hurt. They have the Saints, a game they're favored in. Then they travel to Minnesota. The Vikings obviously have won 4 in a row. You don't have expectations of winning that one. Seahawks at home, which is a game that on paper you should win. They go to the Rams. Then they got the Niners at home, the Chargers at home, the Patriots at home. Are all those at home or any of those in England? I'm not sure. But anyway, point is that this is a stretch in which they should win some games, but I just don't see a way in which they're going to fire a guy they just renewed his contract to. There's the reality to it. He's the only guy you can pay to walk away, but why would you pay to walk away? And for people who are like, well, I heard Cowherd say, well, it's just a rounding error for a billionaire owner. We do know that the Cardinals, who they're owned by, and they haven't been, they've been spendthrifts in the past. Right? The Bidwell family is not seen as one that loves to just spend a ton of money. Now, they've been trying to improve that whole narrative. But the idea that Kliff Kingsbury can take them to a playoffs and then all of a sudden now be fired the next year, and we're talking about this now, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see that. Why would you give a guy a new contract? That takes you through 2027, I think. And it's not huge money, but a 5-year extension, even if not all of it's guaranteed, I don't know. I mean, this was the quote from Michael Bidwell, the owner. The leadership of Steve and Kliff have both been key factors in the team's turnaround the past 3 seasons. So we're looking forward to continue progress and recognize these 2 individuals be a big part of achieving our long-term goals and organization. Now, he was 2 games below 500 when he was given that contract extension, and right now they're 2 games below 500 on the season. So there is reasonable expectations with a bit of a soft schedule upcoming to turn this thing around. But I don't think you go from the playoffs to a disappointing year where your best player is suspended the first 6 games and he's out of a job. I could be wrong. They are all tied together. And this is why the Kyler contract and the Keim contract, they're all important. Because all 3 of these guys are. It almost feels like the other 2 know that the other one isn't good enough at his. Like, I don't think Steve Keim's great at his job. He got a chance at a mulligan. He hired a coach and got a new quarterback, and then a year later he changed, and still got a couple more years to figure it out. But it almost feels like they all got together and like, look, none of us really know what we're doing. So here's the deal. I'm going to give Kliff a contract extension first. Then Steve, I'm going to get a contract extension. And then we'll get Kyler. And the 3 of us, as long as we're inseparable, as long as we don't show any cracks in our relationship, we're good. But then there's supposedly the owner put in the clause in Kyler's contract about, how much he studies at home. He might be well aware. Dan Byer, what do you think?
I think that when you look at Matt Rule being dismissed, you automatically go to, okay, who's next? Who's going to be let go? And so Kliff Kingsbury's name pops up because of the issues they've had in Arizona. But I don't think that Arizona, Matt Rule seemed to really weigh heavy on that organization, where it was anything maybe he did or said or the decisions they made, just a black cloud. And not that Carolina was going to salvage their season, but sometimes to just get a guy out of the building relieves a lot of pressure. And I don't think that's the case with Arizona.
I think one part about the Arizona thing is that Sean Payton, and part of this report is that Sean Payton's out there looming as a candidate, but Sean Payton's out there looming for everybody.
Yes.
And the question, it's like, well, does he want to coach there? Like, I mean, I don't know if he's all in on, his feelings would be, what are his feelings on Kyler Murray? Sean Payton feels like he'll be the guy in Denver, if anything. That feels like a better fit.
He was spotted at the Chargers game, wasn't he? So maybe he's scouting both teams on Monday night.
Who knows? Who knows, right? Like, I think, look, I don't know if Kliff's a good coach. I can only tell you that if you just go raw data, 5 wins first year, 3 wins the year before he gets there, 5, 8, 11. That's improvement. It's all you can ever ask for, right? With a young quarterback. Now, they look completely ill-prepared for the Rams in the playoffs last year, and that was embarrassing. And they haven't been great. And even a couple of their wins are they like stole. You go to the Raiders and you like steal a win. But I think just because Sean Payton's out there looming, like Sean Payton feels a little bit like the Deshaun Watson this upcoming offseason, where the reason Matt Ryan wanted out, Deshaun Watson. The reason a lot of the Miami stuff went down, Deshaun Watson. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, like, it leads to the point of, if Arizona dismissed Kingsbury, does it really give them a head start on Sean Payton?
No.
And that's why I don't think, like, Kingsbury may not be fit for the job and ultimately may lose his job. Who knows, soon as the end of this year. But like, Matt Rule needed to go because that environment needed him to go. Like, it was dire times in Charlotte. And I don't know if it's going to get any better, but they needed to make that move, and we knew he was on the hot seat. I just don't think, like, firing Kliff Kingsbury all of a sudden, reinvigorates this team and they start playing great football. I don't think that's the problem.
No question. And, I mean, like, look, I don't know how good an offensive coach he is in the NFL. I don't know how much that air raid system works in the NFL. What I can tell you is he has a long relationship with his quarterback. And, you're gonna come in and rewire it midseason?
Yeah.
Does anybody know look at how hard it is. The Packers are a perfect example. They're running a different offense this year than they had previously. They used to do West Coast stuff. This is not West Coast stuff. Okay. And Rodgers has said some interesting things about there's flaws within this offense, whereas he likes more the West Coast offense. But think about it. Without changing coaching staffs and trying to change offenses, look at how the Packers, who won 13 games the last 3 years, have struggled. So imagine what you're going to do to Arizona if you built this whole thing. You got all these wide receivers. I have no idea if it works. None. But not seeing it without DeAndre Hopkins, it's not really seeing the offense, not really seeing the team. And I'll discuss Kliff next hour, because there's one argument that people always make for Kliff, which has no validity. And I'll support this. Like, no validity to he wasn't a great college coach. I agree. Stats will tell you that. There's other factors but coaching in college and coaching in the pros, not the same thing. You check that out. We'll talk about that on the In the Bonus podcast. Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. So Kliff says he doesn't think he's coaching for his job, but he understands the element to it. I also think he knows the schedule they have coming up, getting Nuke Hopkins back, there's got to be a certain amount of confidence there that they'll be okay.